I'm thinking that Disney can make a movie out of this shit. You know, you have Sargon going to bed, and then the ghost of journalism past appears, and it's like, tonight you will be visited by three spirits, each more slanderous than the last. You know, like, because I'm looking at the articles, and for the last 3 days, there's been dozens of them. Like, it's crazy. Like, if you actually look at the press, I think it's got over 6 or 7 just mere pieces that appear, bam, bam, bam. And this was expected, right? But then you have like the ones attacking his Discord, like trying to shut it down. And now you got this one where apparently the police is involved over a tweet. A tweet. People in the United Kingdom are stabbing each other like no tomorrow. Okay, knife crime is a big issue. They have issues with gang violence, and you know they also have the child grooming gangs and all of that. But the police, they have the time to spend detectives overlooking at things that are posted on tweets. But obviously, like, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, holy shit, you know, like, this is a case that I personally know of, right? Because I know the guy. I played Dungeons and Dragons with him. So obviously, I'm following the situation a little bit more closely. But is this a trend? Like, is this how anyone that's trying to get into British politics and is not part of Labour or the Tories, is this how they treat you? Like, is this, you know, the way they try to dissuade you from entering into the political field? Because holy fucking shit, like, you know, like now they're using even the police against you. My God. Right, so let's talk about the tweet, because apparently, you know, the thing he said 3 years ago is the biggest issue ever. Right? Like, I wouldn't even rape you. It's a very interesting tweet, isn't it? Now, the way he explained it makes perfect sense. And Garrett Batten tried to explain it, but apparently he didn't do so well. And allegedly, like 3 other UKIP female MPs decided to quit the party. It's like, yeah, but why doesn't the press mention that their names weren't placed on the list anymore? So if a politician from a party decides to quit after their name isn't placed on the list, what does that mean? You know, the only way they could hurt the party is like, oh, we couldn't stand Mr. Benjamin's anti-rape tweet. It was so horrible, so we decided to go with Gerard Batten. It's like, well, okay, good luck, but, you know. That doesn't seem to be like the real reason you left. But anyway, I wouldn't even rape you, right? Mr. Benjamin, as I understand it, is an activist, right? Like, his whole purpose is to push an ideology. And the thing is, like, he's honest about it. Like, there are so many activists that work at The Guardian, right? And they're part of Labour. Like, they actually have a Labour membership card. And then you expect them to write, you know, honest news. You expect them to be objective. Of course, they're going to slander anyone that runs against Labour. But anyway, at least Carl is honest. It's like, yeah, no, I'm an activist. This is what I do. I try to push my ideology on people. You know what you get. But the thing is, like, at the time, he had a very small YouTube channel. I believe he had like 40,000, 50,000 subscribers. And the mainstream media obviously wouldn't give him any attention, wouldn't give him the time of the day. Why would they, right? And there was this MP, this feminist MP, Jess Phillips, which was trying to censor the internet at the time. Little did she know is that if only she would have waited a little bit, you know, if only she would have waited 1 or 2 years, the internet would have been censored by the European Union. They would do the work for her. But at the time, she was a raging feminist and she wanted to censor the internet because women are getting harassed online, you know. It's because people are getting harassed and they can't find the mute button. And in a country where the police goes to people's doors for tweets, that's still not enough, right? That's still not enough. You need to now censor the internet for everybody. Everybody, even people that manage to follow the rules, even the people are... We need to censor. Make sure that, you know, the internet is like China. So in order to gain attention and point to this madness, because a lot of people didn't even know, right? Like, this was happening a little bit... I can't say it at the backdoor level, but it wasn't really that pointed out in the media. Unless you knew who Jess Phillips was and you were following her, you probably didn't know about her legislative project. So Sargon tweets, I wouldn't even rape you, in a way to get attention. And apparently he did, because 3 years later, that's all they talk about. Like, that is literally the hot issue of the day. You know, it's not London grooming gangs, it's not the economy, it's not Brexit. No. Some guy tweeted some shit on the internet. And everyone pretends to be offended. I genuinely do not think anyone is offended on this, right? But the thing with I wouldn't even rape you, I'm thinking about it, like, why is it so offensive? Why is the problem? And the problem that is, if you think about it, is that you are not worthy enough to get raped. Like, I think this is the interpretation that most people hear, right? And you're basically like telling someone like you're not womanly enough for me, right? And in an age of constant victimhood, in an age where people are constantly trying to outdo each other on how oppressed they are, and in an age where the random characteristics of a person, things that someone never worked for them, like gender, like race, is so important to people. Telling someone, it's like, look, you're not even that, you're not even that worthy of getting raped. So why don't you keep complaining about it? You're basically like robbing them, of their identity. You're robbing them of what it means. I'm looking at the Me Too movement, right? At least the one in my country. It started with horrible things like powerful men taking advantage of their position in society in order to rape women, right? To abuse them, to say, look, if you don't have sex with me, you're never going to work in this industry ever again. And it was incredibly horrible, right? And a lot of women came up and they were talking about it in the beginning. But then it degenerated into this thing in my country where you would have women going like, yeah, I was walking on the street and this guy in a car saw me and whistled at me. And it's like, okay, that's really impolite. That is, his mother is responsible for raising such a young lad, but it's not illegal, it's not like the previous case. How can you even compare, right? But it got into the point where I guess women didn't feel feminine enough unless they would tweet under the hashtag #MeToo and talk about how they were inconvenienced somehow. At least in my country, I don't know if in other places. And it's this thing, right? Like when you say I wouldn't even rape you, it's like a Klingon saying to another Klingon, like, I wouldn't even, like, you're not even worthy of getting killed. Which was the highest insult a Klingon could get to another Klingon. It's like, you're not dangerous enough, you're not, it robs them of their honor, it robs them of what makes them Klingon. And this is where the upset comes, But in this case, it's fantastic. Like from 3 years ago, they pick up this tweet that apparently like the police is investigating him over a 3-year tweet. It's like, are you sure this is not politically motivated? Are you absolutely sure this has nothing to do with the fact that he is now running for MPs? Huh? And it's coming like from Alinsky's rulebook, if I'm thinking about it. Like, it sounds so ridiculous. Mr. Benjamin tweet has drawn widespread attention. The post I wouldn't even rape you, hashtag anti-rape threats. It was posted into a comment from Mrs. Phillips saying that people talking about raping me isn't fun, but has become somewhat of part of the course. So they're not even offering any type of context. They don't talk about the legislation that Mrs. Phillips had in order to censor the internet, because it looks kind of bad now, doesn't it? In 2019, it looks kind of bad. Back then, it was the norm. Like, back then, feminists asking for censorship was the norm of the day, but I guess in MP elections, where you have a party that's for free speech, the correct tactic is to pretend that there's nothing wrong with free speech, that anyone can say whatever they want. Now if you're having an MP that back in 2016 was talking about how they want to censor the internet because they're getting mean words online and they can't find the mute button, well, that wouldn't look very great now, would it? And then they take a jab at Gerard Batten. And look, he's a proponent of free speech. I guess that's the problem, isn't it? The tweet has been condemned by Swindon politicians. Like, look how many are forming ranks. Like, really, you got nothing else going in your country. Like, this is the main issue. Some guy said something on Twitter. Labour's prospective parliamentary candidate for South Swindon, freedom of speech is not an absolute right when it threatens the safety of the people. In other words, replace this with human rights. Human rights are not absolute when it threatens the safety of other people, and we decide what is safe for other people and what isn't. Rape is an extremely serious crime, and the tweet to Jess Phillips cannot be explained away. Well, in that case, he will not even explain it. He will not even apologize for it. If not even is now a call for action, then I think Carl should not even apologize. UKIP spokesman said last night Mr. Benjamin is an ardent supporter of freedom of speech, both on the internet and elsewhere. UKIP is the only party in the UK dedicated to defending free speech. And at the end of the day, this is what it's about, right? Like the political parties in Britain, they believe that, and they're outspoken about it, right? Like freedom of speech is not an absolute right. This is what they believe, right? And they get to decide what you can say and what you can't say. This is like the joke from Soviet Russia where Ivan tells Igor, it's like, look, Igor, I understand Americans have freedom. They can criticize their president, they can criticize their military, and they can also criticize their politicians. And the other communist is saying, what are you talking about? We have the exact same freedoms. We can also criticize the American politician, the American president, and the American military. Right? Like free speech is things that you disagree with. And they have to be reasonable in a way. You can't just say that, oh, it's a crime for someone to tweet something offensive at someone else, no matter how offensive it is, right? Like you got the mute button. You want the government to intervene? Apparently, yeah, they do want the government to intervene. Like, look, the police has been called on the case. Fascinating, isn't it? The thing with Sargon winning, I think it's also going to be like a symbol. Like, look how much the press is trying to lie and slander him. If he somehow still manages to win after all this, it kind of shows just how little power the press is having now. It's just going to show just how much people don't believe their bullshit anymore. So I am really excited to see the new elections and see if he manages to win. Let me know what you think. I'll try not to talk about this for a little while, to be honest, but every day it's like something that, it's like, what do you mean the police got involved? What do you mean they're going after his Discord? What do you mean? Like, I just want to wake up one day without going like, what do you mean?